In this video, we will complete the Excel project from Chapter 12, Excel project number 5, and in particular, we'll do Part C. Part C says, create a new chart that will display a two-dimensional columnar chart that shows a rolling 5-year window of the variables. So we'll do that first. Once we have that, then we will add the following data, the data that's provided in the exercise for 2015 and 2016 to your spreadsheet to demonstrate that the new chart shows only 2012 to 2016 values. And by that it means for the rolling 5-year window. To do that, we're going to need to use the count A and offset functions in Excel. If you haven't watched the count A and offset tutorial yet, you should go to the URL at the bottom of the screen and watch that tutorial. One of the complications with this exercise is that it asks us to make a chart, and the chart needs to use the offset function. Unfortunately, chart won't accept a range specified by an offset function as a series of values to plot on the chart. However, it will accept a named range of values as a series of values to plot, and offset can be used when naming a range. So before we can begin to make the chart, we have to go in and name our ranges. We have 4 ranges that we need to name. We need a year range, a range showing this ratio, a range showing this ratio, and a range showing this rate. So let's create the year range first. Let's go to the Formulas tab, and I'll select Name Manager. I'll create a new name, and the first one I want to do is year. You can see that it takes the value there. I don't want to use the word year because year is a controlled word in Excel. Excel may handle it just fine, but it didn't used to. I'm going to make this X year because this will be the label for the X-axis in my graph, so I'll call this X year. Then I'll go down and type the equal sign and begin my offset command. Now the problem with entering an offset function or any function in the named range window is you don't get the prompts that you would get if you were entering the function in a regular cell. So you really have to know what it is you want to type in there. I'm going to type offset. That's the function I want. And I want to start my offset function. My reference cell is going to be here in this first year. And you'll notice that when I do that, it includes the worksheet name, role, and it makes the cell reference absolute because this named range can be used anywhere. Normally, cell references in a name range are absolute. Comma. Now I don't want to move any rows up or down from that value, so I'll put a 0. I do, however, want to move some columns over. I need to move the start column here so that it starts 5 years back from the last year, whatever the user specifies. So I'm going to use the count A function to, on my roll worksheet, roll exclamation mark. I'm on row 6, so I'll put a $sign and a 6 and a colon, a $sign and a 6 and a close parenthesis. Now that will count the number of cells in row 6 that have values in them that are not empty. And I want to subtract from that the value that the user entered in cell B3. I'll select that. And I'm going to need to be sure to add a 1 to that to get the correct range. So that gives me the number of columns to move the cursor. I want the range to be 1 row high, but I want it to be the number of columns wide that the user specifies in cell B3. So I'll select that, close the parenthesis, and indicate OK. Now, the shortcut to do the rest of these would be to copy this. So I'll highlight this with my mouse and do a Control-C, and then create a new named range, and that named range will be BDEWO. Don't use slashes or special characters in these named ranges. It will just cause you problems. I'll go down and highlight all of this, and I'll Control-V to paste those values. And now all I have to do is go through and change all my 6s to 7s because BDE2WO is on row 7. Be careful not to use your arrow keys here. You'll insert cell references and will make a mess. So place your cursor. I place my cursor after the value I want to change, so I use the backspace key to take the 6 out, backspace key, take the 6 out, put a 7 in, backspace key, take the 6 out, put a 7 in, and that's good. I'll create a new one. I'll call this one BADAWO. Take this value out, Control-V. This time I'm going to change all my 6s to 8s because BADAWO is on row 8. Now I'm going to put my cursor in front this time just to show that I could also use the delete key and change that to an 8. So if I place my cursor before the value I want to remove, I use the delete key. If I place it after the value I want to remove, I use the backspace key to delete it. Okay, I've changed those. And I'll create the last one. I will call that BADA rate. And paste. And change the 6s in this case to 9s. Again, be careful not to use your arrow keys. If you do, you'll see the mess. You'll just need to escape out of it. All right, I have all of those changed. And okay, I've created my named ranges. Now I need to insert a chart, but before I do, I'm going to place my cursor in a cell that is not bordered by any values. If my cursor was here or here where there were values around it, the chart wizard would try to create a chart based on the values near my cursor. It would just make a mess. So I'm careful to place my cursor in a cell that has no values next to it. Now I go to Insert. The exercise specifies a two-dimensional column chart, and you'll see that it gives me just an empty blank chart. I'll move it over so you can see. From the Chart Tools menus, which appears when I click on the chart, and the Design tab, I have the Select Data dialog box. I'll bring that up, and it allows me to select the data sources I want to use for this chart. So I'll go ahead and add them. I'm going to add my named ranges. The first one I'll add will be the BDE to WO, so I'll select that for the name. Then I'll hit the Tab key, type the equal sign. Now when entering the named range, I have to specify the sheet that the chart is on. And when chart accepts that data, it's going to add the name of the workbook as well. So you can go back and take a look at that, and you'll see chart adds a lot of stuff. But if you'll just put the sheet name and then the named range, it will work just fine. I'll type equals, the sheet name is roll. I need an exclamation mark. That's the syntax to connect a sheet name with a named range or a cell reference. The named range is BDEWO. Indicate OK. You can see charted those values. I'll add another. This will be BADA to WO. Press the Tab key, equals, and I'll type roll, my worksheet name, exclamation mark, BADAWO. That's the range name for that. Select OK. You can see things are coming together all right. If they're not coming together for you, it's probably because you don't have a 5 up here. You can fix that later. Don't worry about it. Let's add the last one, the exhaustion rate. Press the tab key, equals roll exclamation mark BADA rate. That's what I named that, and indicate OK. Now I need to add my axis labels for the x-axis. I want those to be years, so I'll edit that. And for the range, I'll say equals roll exclamation mark x year. That was the named range. Indicate OK. It gives me my years, and there I have it. Now, you can see that this works as we enter a 4. Let's move this up so that you can see that now it has 4 from 2013 to 2014 to 2013 to 2014 back to 5. Okay. Now, notice the last year here is 2014. The exercise wants you to go ahead and add some additional values, 2015 and 2016. I have those values saved right here. I'm just going to select them and copy them, and I'll just paste them there to quickly do it. You'll see that the chart now, instead of ending in year 2014, sees the new values and now ends in year 2016. And I can enter a 6 and get more values in my chart. I can enter a 7. And the problem is, I can enter an 8. I don't have 8 values. It shouldn't let me enter an 8. I'm just going to get a bad data. We don't want bad data. Put that back to a 7. I'm going to use data validation to limit the values that can be entered into this cell to the number of available years. I'm going to use the count A function to do that. I'll move up and select the data tab, and from the data tab I'll select data validation, the down arrow, and select data validation. Notice I have my cursor here in cell B3. It's currently set to any value. I don't want it to accept any value. I want it to accept only whole numbers. So in this case, we're just whole numbers. Between, I'll always assume that there's at least 1 year. For the maximum, I'm going to use the count A function. So I enter an equal sign and count A. And I want it to count the number of years. I'll make it absolute in row 6. $6. But I have a title in row 6, the word year. So I need to take that out. So I'll subtract that out. That way it will eliminate the title and only count the number of years. Now I want to put a message in here just in case the user enters a number that is beyond the range. I want it to stop him. I could have just a warning or just information, but I don't want to allow it. So I'm going to make this a stop validation. I'm going to title the box data entry error. And I'm going to enter the message, you cannot enter a value greater than the number of years shown in the table. Select cancel to continue. Good instructions to the user, because the user's going to have made a mistake and not going to know what to do, and he's going to need some instruction. Select OK. Now if I enter an 8 here, cannot enter a value greater than the number of years shown in the table. Select cancel to continue. Cancel. It sends me back to a 7, so I can put a 6 in there, no problem. Now if I were to add a year, we won't put the data in, but let's put 2017 in here. And then if I were to enter an 8, the count A function would let me enter the 8. It would be wrong. I didn't put any data in, but you can see this table is going to grow as new years are added. I'll change that back to a 7 and get that 2017 out of there. Now, another problem that I have is I need a title for this chart, and the title for this chart is going to change each time we change the number of years shown in the chart. So we want a title that will accurately depict what is being shown in the chart. So I'm going to make a smart title. I'm going to go through this quickly. You can pause and look at this to understand. We're going to enter text as a variable, and then I'm going to connect that text with some numbers to make a sentence that looks at what the user is doing and accurately puts that title on the chart. So first I create the smart label here by typing the equal sign and then in quotes, and I'm calling this chart Estimates of Uncollectible Accounts Receivable for the period. And there's a space. I need to put a space in there. Close the quote. So there's one variable. I use my concatenation symbol, which is the ampersand. And I will then go and get the value of the first year. I'll use my offset command to do that. I'm going to take a look at B6 here. That's the starting point. I don't want it to move any rows. I do want it to move over to the first column, so I'll use count A and look at row 6, get the total number of non-empty cells, and I'll subtract from that the number specified by the user plus 1. That'll give me my first year. I'll use my concatenation symbol again and type the word 2 with spaces on either side, ampersand. Again, I'll use my offset function. Start at B6. Don't want to move any rows up or down, but I do want to go to the end and get that value. So I'll look to row 6, and I need to subtract 2 and press enter. You can see now I have my chart shows 2012 to 2016, and this phrase here, estimates of uncollectible receivables, accounts receivable for the period 2012 to 2016. If I change that to a 4, you can see this changes to 2013 to 2016, as does the title. So what I need to do is go to the chart, just click on the chart, go to my Design tab, select Add a Chart Element, go to Chart Title, and I'm going to place the chart title above the chart. Well, the title is selected. If your cursor is in here, go ahead and click on the border of the chart title so that your cursor is out of there. Then with the chart title selected, place your cursor in the formula bar and type the equal sign, then point to the cell with the smart label in it and press enter. That will put the label in the chart, and when you change it, you can see that the label in the chart will change. It's very important that the title is accurate. And the problem with these scalable or rolling charts is that values change and the titles can lack accuracy. All right, let's put in some other labels here. We'll go to the design menu. We'll add some chart. We're going to add axis titles. Let's add a primary horizontal axis. That is year. So let's put year in there. Let's add a vertical axis. And that's a little harder because there are a couple of different things. Two of these are ratios and one of them is a calculation, but I'll call it ratio. You can figure it out on your own later. Now, I believe we're also required to place data labels. So I'll select data labels and I'm going to go down and place them on the outside. I don't like the way these look, so I'm going to format them. They're kind of carrying over onto other values. I'm just going to right click on one of them and select Format Data Labels. Then I'm going to select this number and select number here. I just want one decimal place. Tab out of that. And I'll do the same thing for this one. Selects the whole series there. General number, change that to a 1. Tab out of that. And I'll select the last series. And again, number 1. So you get a sense of some of the formatting that you can do. That completes the exercise.